has now written a book. He's written a book called The Company Man, referring, of course, to the company, the CIA. And of course, it also has the connotation, whether he knows it or not, of course, a company man, of course, was somebody who conspired with the company against the workers, of course, back in the times of the labor movement. So he is saying that he was a loyal member of the company, the CIA. And in fact, he wrote and created the legal framework for the torture program with the help of lawyers in the Justice Department. Specifically, John Yoo, who now teaches at the Berkeley University, I believe, one of the California universities anyway, it might be Southern California, and another man named Bybee, who is now an appeals judge. And in fact, both of these men were promised that they would get help with their careers, and Bybee specifically that he would become a judge on the appeals court before they wrote these memos, which made it okay to use enhanced interrogation techniques, which included, of course, waterboarding. And of course, the President of the United States, George Bush, admitted that he had signed off on these techniques, and he actually said that he had seen the techniques, although Mr. Rizzo says that he worked for a long time with the head of the CIA on these memos and on these regulations and laws that they were going to use around this torture. And he never had any idea that George Bush knew anything about any of this stuff. So there seems to be a discrepancy right there between Mr. Rizzo and the President of the United States, George Bush, about what was going on with these torture techniques. Now, the fact of the matter is that the Senate Intelligence Committee has been for years preparing a report on this program. And they have, in fact, created a 6,000-page report, which is still being withheld from us, the people. Because as it went on, they got into a disagreement. Senator Feinstein, who is the head of the Intelligence Committee, doing this oversight work on this program of torture, of enhanced interrogation, as they like to call it, has now said that it was lots worse than anybody ever thought. And we still don't got the report. And yet, Mr. Rizzo is going around with his book, even though he is the architect of the legal framework for what happened, and in fact involved the entire, almost half of the cabinet of the Bush-Cheney regime was actually overseeing these interrogations.
We are probably the only people who are advocating for actual freedom right now that you're going to find on the Freedom Trail. Because you know it as well as I do. Every one of us out here on this plaza knows that things are taking a turn for the worse, and the bankers have been running our government. From the time of the financial collapse in 2008, the bankers have in fact been getting the bailouts. They've been running our government. You probably know that our wars are for gold, for wealth, for oil. You must know that. It's been true since the Romans. You think our wars are for ideology? Give me a break. The reason we invaded Iraq, not just once. We invaded Iraq with sanctions. We invaded Iraq with the CIA, and that's how Saddam Hussein originally came into power. Every single one of these occasions, the United States has invaded and has caused civil wars only for money. Only for money. Right. And we have Obama, the hypocrite, coming out and talking about the goodness of the American invasion of Iraq in the last week. Can you imagine that? The leader of the free world came out and said the invasion of Iraq was good. He compared it to Crimea. The invasion of Iraq was not good. It was a crime against humanity.
Can you imagine cutting food stamps and sending $90 billion to Kabul, Africa, Afghanistan? And what do we have now? Let's face it, we have Detroit, who's bankrupt. Isn't that right, sir? Detroit is bankrupt. What country is Detroit in? What country is Detroit in, sir? Do you know? We're not sending any money to Detroit, but we're spending $90 billion to Afghanistan. Do you believe that? No, it's unbelievable. We're cutting food stamps. Well, the Pentagon, more on the Pentagon. We have spent more on the Pentagon than 10 countries combined. Imagine we're still spending money on the Pentagon. This is hard to believe. This is your hard-earned money. What are we doing that for? Let's face it, this is the Freedom Trail. George Washington told us right at the very beginning, no entangling in alliances, right? What is this, enduring freedom in Afghanistan? 13 years, sir. 13 years of war. This is hard to believe.
Which war do you want to stop?
Well, we could stop. We could stop a war. Why not?
Which one do you want to stop?
Well, we stop them all. Which one do you want to stop? Do you want to stop one, or do you want to keep it going? I don't know.
Join the Marines.
It's unbelievable. I was in Vietnam. I know what it's all about, sir. I was in Vietnam. It's unbelievable. War is hell. That's what General Sherman said. And what do we have? We have a general, Smedley Butler. Smedley Butler, few profit, many pay. Isn't that right, sir?
I don't
few
pay
profit,
taxes,
many
so I don't
pay.
give a
It's
shit.
hard to believe that all this money is going into big corporations and the poor people are paying with their sons and daughters. 14 soldiers killed this year in Afghanistan. 14 soldiers, and we're pulling out. What happened? Why aren't we pulling out? Why didn't we pull out yesterday? Didn't no one should get killed in Afghanistan from the United States or Afghanistan. Look at all those Afghans getting killed. Now we're spending more money in Iraq. We're spending weapons into Iraq. We're continuing that Iraq civil war we started. These big corporations are making a fortune, and you are getting ripped off. And this is no April Fool's joke. Look out Tuesday. April Fool's Day, right? You're all getting fooled.